Good morning. Sunny day here in Alpharetta as we sit at Skillshot headquarters. Not here by myself, of course, joined by Anatoly Alexeyev as we get ready for a fantastic day of Smite minor league action. We've got an interesting docket. First up is going to be Flashpoint taking on Team Queso, and then after that we'll see Simplicity go head-to-head without Cold Game. Later on, we'll see the North American teams play as well.
Titan, it's already down, and Team Queso hold on to take down Flashpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was mid-support today. I mean, Ferrocrick and Fusified is not on their A game. A combined 2-18 in that last game 3. Need a little bit better than that if you're going to clinch a set.
Let's go ahead and move into the picks and bans, though, for game number 1.
Maniac is here. Could steal. Spits. Takes it away. Beautiful play for the Earthworm. And now Simplicity coming right back into it. And the Titan goes down 2-0. Simplicity over at Out Cold. 2 games down. We're going to North America.
Sanguine in a very impressive set here over Armada, and with an impressive set. Dude, I love that joke. I'm going to keep doing it. They take it 2-0 over Armada.
Yeah, it's that set was much better than your joke.
We truly don't even know where everyone actually lies, so very, very close in all these teams. I'm so excited to watch all these matches between them. I'm joined here by Taco. Happy to have you right here next to me as we go into our last set of the day, Cryptic up against Space Station.
However, for Space Station Gold, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be Ocean subbing in for Amiel today.
Transforms. There's the Thor. The hammer goes forward. The ultimate's good. Ozzy gets a kill off screen. The Titan landed on by the Thor. That's game.
Again, congratulations, Space Station Gold. Here's your standings for North America. And this is Hype Unit up at the top, Sanguine there as well, along with Space Station Gold.
Good morning. That's me, not Bologna. Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Smite Minor League. My name's Tom Battinger, and I'm excited to bring you some of the business today. Of course, I'm not alone. I'm going to be leaning on some of the analysis from one of the best in the business, the best Taco. How you doing today?
Feeling pretty good. Really excited to get into this SML action, and definitely looking forward to seeing what the day has in store for us.
It's going to be fun because we're starting off pretty hot. We've got Team Queso at the top of the order. They're going to be going up against Horizon, and watching these teams go back and forth should be fun. Queso has really stood up on their own 2 feet as of late, and I think Horizon Union has what it takes to kind of bring some competition.
Definitely a little bit of a hotter start for Queso than what they ended Phase 1 on, which I think shows that some adjustments are clearly being made. Level of competition definitely continues to climb in both regions.
We'll see Simplicity later on as well. They'll go up against the opposition Exordium, and Simplicity is going to try and stay up on top. Like you mentioned, Team Queso a little bit hotter this time around, but we'll see if they have that the picante in them, because this is where they have to break that tie of second place.
And it's not going to be easy when Europe is as stiff in the competition as it has been. At least if it remains the same as it was in Phase 1, then Simplicity, Flashpoint, they're all going to be teams to look out for.
Absolutely. I mean, Simplicity obviously put on a show when it comes to Midseason Invitational, and I think they're going to continue to do such. But as we take a look at match number 1, Team Queso is really the squad that I'm excited to see. I think this team is one of the squads that probably, I don't want to say should have made it to MSI. Coulda, shoulda, woulda is, the pain of every poet. But at the end of the day, I think that Team Queso is a team that just barely kind of escapes what needs to be the top.
I think that the team as a whole just really struggled with finding their own identity after the departure of Alpha Jackal. Once Alpha left for the SPL to join Space Station, no hard feelings there, obviously, between himself and Queso. But it was a little bit unfortunate because Queso definitely had a tendency to struggle with their drafting phase shortly after that. But like we mentioned with last week's performance, I mean, they seem to have cleaned it up a little bit.
You pick it up, you put it down, and you go to picks and bans, and you figure out what's going to work out for you and your team. Team Queso coming in hot for game number 1 as we jump right in. I'm expecting to see some of the standard bans, and again, we're 2 weeks in, but if you missed our first week back post mid-season, we have had some minor changes. All teams get 3 bans at the beginning instead of just 2, so you get a little bit more wiggle room as far as what's powerful and what's powerful just for your opponent's sake. And then later on, just the same old 2. But the number of gods have changed as well, so when you see some weird stuff, don't be surprised to see Isis or Ares banned out there. You're coming back from summer going, what happened? What am I saying? A lot of different characters have come up and down the tier list.
I mean, you're talking about Isis and Ares, and Queso are on this AO Soul rampage. The Soul seems like a very specific target ban here against Horizon. And not only that, but Chronos, Jonqui, those types of responses definitely make sense in my eyes. The Athena as well. So both of these teams looking to take away some comfort picks from the other.
There's that first selection, Isis. This is a character that she's been known as a control mage for a long time, and she was once known for her early game push. But I think other characters kind of met her early game push as they got changed and buffed along the way. Now she's got some early game push, some power, but a hell of a lot of control and utility. So we're going to see her a lot. Across the way, though, Achilles and Jingwei.
Interesting response picks for sure. The Jingwei having a little bit of lower pressure, so that already leads me to believe that this Achilles is a really strong flex pick right now for Horizon. I like the die potential that's introduced with an Achilles, but I want to see it complemented by either more dive or another beefy frontlining member here, particularly something that might be able to control this Khepri and Guan Yu a little bit better. There's so much sustain currently for Queso that it's going to be tough for Horizon to have the right responses.
I got to agree there. I think I need to see something with, like you said, control. Achilles and Jingwei. I think the shield stun's a big deal from Achilles.
Odin.
Lightning bolt.
Odin would be a nice look. Odin has been overlooked for a long time. Maybe with a shakeup, we'll see the Cage Man come back, but it will be the Merlin. I do want to ask you, as we get into round 2 of bans, picking the Khepri into the Execute character. I know it's not end-all, be-all when there's an Execute across the way, but is this the right move?
Yes and no. It depends on really whether or not Queso can actually pull off the level of execution required to make this work. But if Achilles has multiple targets to look for that fatal strike on, then I can definitely see where a lot of the concern would be for this Khepri selection choice. But as far as levels 1 through 12 are concerned, I don't really expect this Achilles to have that much influence over the Khepri in his Scare's blessings. If this Achilles is intended for support, and then that might be a slightly different story, because then the Achilles can actually match the rotations out of the Khepri and kind of stick to him, not really allowing him to have any free casting opportunities for that ability. But if the Achilles is in solo lane, which with that Terra lock-in could be a heavy possibility, then you're probably not going to be seeing him until those later levels, that mid-game phase. So Queso still has a chance, I think, to kind of try and snowball their opposition.
And in order to do that, they're going to grab Ullr, certainly a character that works out very well with respect to the term snowball. You get a little bit of a lead on Ullr. You can start one-tapping or 1-2 comboing players and just watching them go down. And the Hunbats there is the facilitator. If Team Queso doesn't get off to a hot start like they kind of plan on with this draft, Hunbats will always be able to provide fear to evil and help get them out of a jam. Last selection overall here, Taco, Fumana.
I think my main concern right now for Horizon is that a lot of their components don't really seem to mesh all that well together until those super mid to late game based team fights. If Queso just comes out and bops them on the mouth early on, I don't really see the recovery.
Well, Queso has first pick. We'll see if they get the first game to the casters for game 1.
Queso going up against Horizon here. Finch and Anatoly on the call. It's SMLEU, and a game that both these teams really need to be able to grab a win in. So far, though, things don't look too odd in terms of where everyone is going with all these picks. There's going to be some action early on the solo lane. 2 supports over here, Toly, like we've been seeing a lot of.
We have been seeing this a lot. Finch is trying to control the blue buff on the right side of the map. Not too much action in the purple side when the hunters are being left alone to their own devices. One side is going to be playing aggressive, Shakil on the Ullr. Another side looking to farm mostly is Echrome on the Jingwei. Both of these teams, though, evenly matched throughout their first week performance at 2-1 apiece. Gonna matter a lot once the rematches start occurring.
That's exactly right. Obviously, Queso, one you might be a little bit more familiar with, is Echrome already under pressure from this Ullr. I imagine we'll see a lot more of that as this game goes on in this long lane matchup. But Horizon Union, kind of the new ones on the block here, certainly not in terms of experience. I mean, Mr. Stefan, I mean, even Ekrom and Marcus, these are names that you've definitely seen around at this level before, but Queso are the ones that have just been doing it day in and day out, so they might have a slight edge here.
They've been more experienced, but they haven't been the elite of their class, unfortunately. Right. For the European Minor League, it was Flashpoint and Simplicity that made it to that mid-season invitational, so I definitely want to see more from Queso in the Phase 2 with all the experience collectively from this team. They have the creativity where Warchi plays some Hunters, sometimes even Warriors.
Yep.
Vamana actually is one of his go-to Warriors in that mid lane, but Julio is also aggressive in what he plays and how he plays it, how he builds, trying to go for Mage's Blessing from time to time. This game, however, playing the Guan Yu, more safe, standard, especially with a Warrior's Blessing. Not really his style.
Yeah, normally he likes to be, as you said, really aggressive up in your face, but I mean, this draft from Queso Tully, it feels really strong when they're team fighting. I mean, Fear No Evil, the ultimate from the Guan Yu, I mean, everything in Warchi's kit on this Isis and Draco Marino, I mean, it's going to be so difficult for Horizon Union, it feels like, to move around freely up against this comp.
Just the first 3 picks from Queso alone screams defense to me. It was Isis first pick, immediately followed by Khepri and Guan Yu. If that doesn't scream like mid to late game team fighting, I don't know what else does, Finch. But the problem was Horizon Union didn't really adapt their composition to incorporate any anti-healing inside the natural kit, so they're going to have to get the items instead.
Ekrom again under pressure. His beads are forced out earlier on in this matchup. He is Jingwei. That rapid reincarnation passive gets him back to lane a lot faster, but even still, free pressure for this Cooler, knowing he doesn't have to worry about the jungler. That is going to be scary for Horizon Union.
Only with one more health potion is Ekrom forced to back on out. If Czechia wants to, he has 2 options. To clear the wave the way he's doing right now, maybe look to back in time or look for a purple buff invade, or to freeze the wave and try to deny 1, maybe 2 melee minions. But looks like he just wants to back to base as soon as possible because he doesn't have the ability to match that back speed, but instead looking for an invade. Timing works out.
He should be able to grab this one too, but no, he's going to fall back. Perhaps doesn't have much information on where Horizon Union is in the jungle. I think Silence, they knew he was missing and thought he was coming, so they just back off.
The timing of it definitely did not favor him. At 325 with speed buff respawning around that 225, 230 marker, that's plenty of time to have the jungler do his speed buff, clear out that right side of the map, and then make his rotation on the left. Smart play from Czechio to not go for the purple buff invade, but I would have loved to see him just immediately back, honestly, after clearing the wave.
That would have been probably in that situation the better timing there for him, but he'll still hold on to pressure, be here right when his own purple buff spawns, and then can push this wave in. But this is what's a bit scary for them, is that they have Czechio and this Cooler when in the long lane get some of the slower picks you've been seeing nowadays would almost certainly be able to get pressure. And once they get to the mid to late game, they probably have the better draft. It's going to be up, I think, to Marcus on this Achilles to try and make up for some of that lack of early pressure and get Horizon into a better spot.
And with the Purification beads to start off the game, he doesn't have that many playmaking opportunities as opposed to going for the blink. He's trying to survive against maybe worse turtles, Fear No Evil, and you got to respect that. The team fighting power between a Hunbats and an Isis. If you don't have beads, you're probably dead, honestly.
Czechio moving in aggressively on Ekrom yet again, but that's not the only place where there's blood. Silenced, in trouble. He's now been slowed as well, and Worst Turtle finds the in-hand. First blood for Team Queso, and Ekrom forced back to base yet again. Maybe not, actually. Czechio dives this Tier 1 tower and manages to make it out of there.
Looks like Ekrom used that airstrike, so that's a calculated dive, trying to make sure he lands outside of the Tier 1 tower so he wouldn't get that tower aggro. A good first blood coming through. None other than Worst Turtle getting that bounty, a huge little boost to Queso's momentum, and important timing to pick off a level 4 Terra before the Terra's Blessing. That gank, if that was a level 5 Terra, becomes much more difficult with how swingy that ultimate is, reducing your own damage, buffing your opponents. You don't want to deal with that at level 5.
It also set up the timing for them to steal that red buff totally. Even though it wasn't Czechio himself who got it, he made sure that Ekrom had to back as well, and because of that fight they just had in mid, the timing works out for Queso to strip that one away. So there's one on Warchi and Draco Marino for whatever it's worth, though of course most of that value just comes from stripping it away.
So looking at the solo lane, we don't really see this often, but Terror playing the Vamana, going for the Ninja Tabi, trying to accelerate that attack speed for when he does transform into the big baby.
I guess that's right. Yeah, he'll be able to get off a lot more hits while he's in that form. And plus, Ninja Tabi are just better now, just straight up, right? So
More attack speed, yeah.
Yeah, so it definitely better than they used to be. Sorry, is I guess a better way to say it. So it is certainly makes some Sith are getting picked up. Wouldn't be surprised if even some Bolognas maybe get to come in and make some use. This Terrorim is forced into the Colossal Fury as Julio is able to sustain up and back out.
This could be a good timing window for Worst Turtle now to make this rotation. And as I'm saying that, he's actually coming back from a back camp invades on the right side of the map. Fear No Evil is available. He has Blink, but he's opting not to make the rotation. Instead, he wants to make a 3-on-3 play in mid.
He might be able to make something happen. He has Blink available, but Horizon Union are playing so far back. There is a sentry in that choke point. I don't think Worst Turtle stepped over it, but there's a chance they saw him for a moment and knew to back off.
An interesting idea. Damn if you do, damn if you don't, honestly, because it's still difficult to gank even a level 7 Vamana without his ultimate. With Warrior's Blessing fully evolved, that's 15 physical protections. He's going to get 40 health upon hitting an enemy god. So instead, thinking of maybe exploiting an under defense Terra. And if you can even force out Silence back into base, then that's going to delay his stacking.
But it is good they can at least be here in position for this next red buff spawn. Anatoly, they've moved in, grabbed it, and they moved right on. That's despite really good vision from Horizon Union at both of those checkpoints, or choke points rather. It's just that Team Queso has the pressure, they have the timing, and Horizon Union can't step up.
And I think this comes down to the comp. No one wants to fight a Nisus and a Hunbats in the jungle when they have the positioning, and then a Khepri to bail them out if they get in trouble. Like, how are you going to really penetrate this Isis that has circular protection available? Warchi opting to try to figure out the best position in the mid game. Doesn't even have mobility. He's rushing that Book of Thoth, trying to get as much mana available online.
And it's working for him right now. This is all stacking he's got in the bank as Union are chilling near these mid camps. Don't want to let them go down for free for Drake Marino and Warchi, but their steal potential is not bad. Looks like they were able to grab at least one there.
Still haven't seen too much action out of Horizon Union. They just seem to be playing defensive and waiting for this mid to late game power spike. Mr. Stefan on the Merlin definitely would want to get Gem of Isolation, maybe Spear of Magus to amplify some of those abilities. E-Chrome hasn't been getting the better end, unfortunately, from Chekio. That's been kind of all up in his grill this entire laning phase, as we're seeing the Mage's Blessing coming out of the Ullr, probably finishing off that Transcendence right now.
On the other side for Terram, already going into a Pride win. Totally, we've talked about this already, right?
We have.
I mean, this early with very little other protections in the build, I don't know. It's still really good,
It's
right?
a good item, yes. It's good in terms of slowing people down. No matter how much protections you have, you're still going to get the 25% slow for 3 seconds once the shield expires or if the shield pops. But in a weird way, if you have a small shield, you're going to get that slow pop a little bit faster if you think about it.
It might even be slightly better in some instances.
So, because right now he has 110 total protections.
Now there's some trouble here for Marcus. Circle of Protection committed as well. And the Achilles forced to use Fatal Strike defensively. That means Scarab's Blessing now good. No Execute to chew through. That brings Worst Turtle back. But even still, he's low. He manages to make his way out of there. And the Abduct from Draco Marino might spell the end here for Silence. Root lands 2, and Julio comes in to clean up.
Just a small little seasoning to add extra flavor to that team fight. Great rotation out of Julio. Normally it's the Vamana that makes it there first because Clear the Path covers more distance than that Warrior's Will. Chekio even making his presence felt onto E-Chrome. After that team fight, gonna probably deny him a couple more minions under their tower. Haven't seen too many kills from Queso, but they've been able to really build on lead objectively by invading the red buffs, controlling the mid camps, being able to bully even the solo lane from the Totem of Khus. All 3 check marks are there.
And they should be able to find their timing soon to start looking for even a bigger objective, something along the lines of Gold Fury, even Pyromancer, now that we're past that 10-minute mark. Since clearly these fights are able to go their way, I mean, once they force Marcus to use Fatal Strike defensively, that's when Draco Marino's Scarab's Blessing gets even better, because there's nothing there to punish it, and the revive got Worst Turtle out of there, and they win the fight.
Yeah, Worst Turtle jumps on now. Didn't even need to actually proc the Scarab's Blessing. A very impressive escape out of him with his power spike now of the Brawler's Beat Stick. Going to be a little bit of extra penetration to try to kill maybe Terror or Marcus in some of these team fights, preventing the self-healing or even the team healing coming out of Silence Terra.
There's a couple things that are going to have to get cleaned up now, though, for Marcus. It's not just that the Fatal Strike's used defensively, but I imagine they're leaning on him to be their early presence, and it hasn't quite been there as Gold Fury is now half HP. Warchi has Circle of Protection, so the objective is confirmed. It's just a question of will there be a fight? Answer's no. Everyone's out of there.
They even saw Julio right around the corner.
Yeah.
Without their Vamana, they don't want to take this 5-on-4 fight. This is not a good momentum start at all for Horizon. They can't shut down this team fighting presence, and Queso is fully taking advantage. They drafted perfectly for how they wanted to play it, and they're executing accordingly.
Marcus takes a good deal of damage, but it's Terror Room that goes into Colossal Fury early. Gets some nice damage on the Worst Turtle and Warchi, but the rest of Horizon Union don't seem that committed to this fight. That's just an ultimate out from Terror Room.
Yeah, didn't even really get close enough to pop that Predwin shield onto anybody as Silence is going to run away, but Stefan just blown up in the blink of an eye.
He gets abducted, Spirit Balled, and there's not much chance of you surviving that one. Now the Tier 1 tower in mid's in trouble. More than in trouble, it's gone. That's been taken from Queso. And that's how this whole game has kind of looked. A really small amount of resistance from Horizon Union, and then Queso just take what they want.
That team fighting power has been shown earlier than I thought would have expected.
Me too, yeah.
Before the 12-minute mark, they're able to control the Tier 1 tower, both the neutral objectives on the left and right side of the map. This lead is very high for this state of the game. This is a lead that's normally accomplished around the 18 to 20 minute mark.
Yeah, and usually on the back of a little bit more than just one Fury, really, for the game. That's about all they've done as far as the neutral objective are concerned to push themselves this far out. So not a bad lead for Queso at all. But I like the point that you're making. You weren't expecting this to happen this soon. I thought there was a chance that this Achilles would kind of be the star of this early game and Marcus would be the one we'd be following. But instead, it's Queso that's had pressure in all three lanes, and it makes it hard for you to gank anywhere when that's the case.
As a result, 2 levels behind Finch.
Yeah.
I think if he played a little riskier with Blink instead of Beads, he might have been able to either shut down the aggression from Chekio, maybe slow down Julio on the Guan Yu. If you can delay a Guan Yu from rotating to these team fights, you've already done your team a service, whether or not you kill him. Just allow your soul laner to make the rotations first. It goes a long way in maybe playing defense on the red buff. Defending the first one was very difficult, but I think the second and third one, had Marcus made some pressure in that solo lane, it would have been easier to defend the red buff later on in the game.
With all those neutral objectives now down in favor of Queso, Horizon Union have at least a moment where they can farm without worrying about losing those on the map. Like you said, they need to be there for the red buff spawn here this next time to make sure that one doesn't get stripped away by Queso yet again. But if things like this keep happening, could be trouble. Marcus gets abducted. No one there for the immediate follow-up, and hey, red buff secured.
Finch, I don't know why, but that little sound that he makes during the abduct for that skin just tickles me.
It's great, isn't it? It's also scary. You don't want that to be happening.
No,
but
definitely not.
But it is funny, for sure.
But that's Draco Marino in a nutshell. He's always in a position to make those plays, and from the opponent's point of view, without the vision control, they don't really know if there's going to be follow-up. Like, Isis can Spirit Ball through the wall. You have to be mindful about that. A Blink Hunbat's play could be right around the corner as well.
This is scary. Yeah, Worst Turtle and Draco Marino lurking, daring E-Chrome to step forward. He will not, though. They certainly have the information that they're there now as the Tier 1 tower and left goes down. Julio can reveal there's 2 in right if they want to make a play.
That was such a high-level play, Finch, from Queso. Like, just from them zoning away E-Chrome, it's not flary, it's not flashy. It doesn't look good on the big screen, but as, like, an analytical, like, breakdowner, or whatever,
Sure.
analyst, I guess I could say, that was, like, top-notch. That's how you get guaranteed farm, zoning away your opponents like that.
Terrome still has Colossal Fury, but he wants to hold it looks like, in this matchup, and it works for him. Good patience, he makes it out of there. But you're right. I mean, it's just a little bit that you can do to make it so E-Chrome either has to step up and die or lose his tower, and he chooses to lose the tower, so it's free for Queso.
That's like SPL caliber plays, honestly, right there. Like, this is how teams are practicing in their scrims, of figuring out how you can take advantage of this 1v1 meta in the long lane. All right, we'll put Ullr versus the Jingwei. Okay, we'll kind of put team fighting presence in the jungle to make sure that our Ullr has the isolated matchup because of how much pressure we're committing onto the red buff. And then all of a sudden, after these neutral objectives, they finally chip away at this tower through the zoning process. This has all been kind of like a build-up to that moment.
You're exactly right. I mean, remember, Renegades weren't here in the SPL for so long. They had to scrim some SML teams while they were still literally in Europe. And I'm not sure if it was Queso in particular, but once they're scrimming some of them and all that's flowing around the same pool, you're not surprised that some of those strong habits are on all of those teams. It all does get spread around as Silenced and Tarum really want to force down this tier 1 tower over in right.
Looks like they're eventually going to get it. Silence just going to keep Julio in check as no, actually that tower will survive for a moment. Tarum having to back away, but this leaves the Oni Fury completely exposed on the left.
Yeah, and there's no way eChrome can go in there. They're asking way too much of him to even try and defend. Meanwhile, the rest of Horizon Union, not only do they not get the tier 1 tower in right, they don't get anything else either. They might not even defend their own blue buff as Julio is here to try and make a little bit of noise, forces back Silence. That's a 6-level disparity.
That's right, 6 levels ahead of the support, 2 levels ahead of his counterpart solo laner, and he has to sustain now in a different 1v2 as a level 13 Marcus, but here comes the cavalry.
Yeah, this is not what you want. Fear No Evil forces the Colossal Fury for Tarum, and even still, there's not enough sustain. The baby melts, blue buff stolen, and Queso, having just gotten the Fury, can grab the tier 1, maybe even start looking at FG. This side of the map is all them now.
Yeah, this build from Tarum is left to be a little more desired.
Oh, yeah.
You need the health and the protections. The protection from Priestman alone and the little bit of a shield is not enough for him to survive these kind of engagements. He definitely could have opted for a lot more in terms of cooldown reduction with the health, potentially going for something else.
This could be trouble on left, though. Looks like Horizon has a bit of a grouping. They want to force down the tier 1. eChrome was considering backing, but has changed his mind. Silence drops the Terra ultimate as well. And meanwhile, Pyramid being grabbed by Queso. This has been such a confusing last few minutes for Horizon Union. It feels as if they can't decide how they want to respond to the pressure from Queso. I mean, just now they rotated 3 members over, and eChrome's backing, or I'm not sure what it is they want to do.
It definitely feels they're a little outclassed in this game. It's going to be important to see how they bounce back mentally in game number 2 if this game continues the way it has been, because Queso is a team that if they build off of a lead, it's hard to really stop them from securing it with how long they've been playing together. They have that experience to not throw leads, so we'll see how Queso do clean up this game, but Horizon Union are definitely challenged in this set. I think that they need to adapt their picks and bans a little bit, change how they build their relic selection in terms of playmaking opportunities. The game is basically live or die by your jungler, right? And unfortunately, Marcus has been silenced this game, kind of like the support player's name. And if they don't clean that up in game number 2, I don't have much hope for them.
He's been a literal non-factor. 0-0-0. 3rd in player damage, and that's only above the supports, and he hasn't been able to do much at all this game. As now Fire Giant in the sight to Team Queso, 18.5 minutes in. Circle of Protection dropped as well. That should confirm this objective. All Tarum can do is watch.
That was about 10 seconds or less coming through at this stage of the game. Very fast timing. This ISIS has been prioritized and banned for a reason after the mid-season patch. That ultimate doing quite a number, not only team fights, but also objectives.
And it looks like Julio had to use the teleport there, too. He went over to make sure that eChrome couldn't threaten the tier 2 tower in the long lane by himself. So that's a great job making sure they don't lose too much from the map on any side. Now they're all grouped back up to make a push on this tier 2 tower in right. And for what it's worth, Horizon Union down 10k, wants to defend. Worst Turtle goes in, Fear No Evil to cut the fight in half, and that should be the tier 2 tower.
It definitely is, and I love the discipline from Queso. The jump back into the team instead of the jump to chase any stragglers. I love it. Queso relying on all that healing, all that damage mitigation. It's all about the perseverance coming through from Queso. Not only do they have the Isis, the Khepri, the Guan Yu, they have this Fire Giant buff for another 3 minutes.
I'm glad you brought up that healing, because it's basically just Brawler's beat stick on Marcus to try and slow it down. And we already brought up how little damage he's been doing, as they will try another fight on the tier 2. Earth and Fury's already been used by Silence, and Queso a bit on the retreat, but they just want to wait for that ultimate to drop, and then they can look to re-engage.
The discipline is just uncanny, Finch.
It's been great.
This is their game, Queso, but they no, if they want to fight us outside of the tier 2 tower, we'll wait out that Terra's Blessing. We have the levels, the items, the buffs as well on top of it. Queso is playing like a league above where they currently are.
It really has been impressive from them, and you're right, some of the plays we've seen are the kind of plays that you only make when your team is making confident, concise calls. What we're doing right now, this aggression, it's just for the tier 2. That's how you blink over the wall, Fear No Evil, and then get back out immediately, because you know what you're there for, you get it, you leave.
I'm excited to see how Queso plays the rest of this set, and in the future weeks. I don't think we really got a chance to see how, or actually we did see them play against Flashpoint last week where they did find the 2-1 victory. We didn't see how Horizon Union found their 2-1 victory over Exordium, but these two teams definitely a little bit different styles. Horizon a little bit too defensive with an offensive composition.
Marcus in some trouble here yet again. Is forced into those purification beads and will disengage. Looks like he did eventually pick up the blink. Hopefully he'll be able to find some plays there, but on the left side, no one's even in position. They'll grab one more tier 2 tower, and this has been really good use of the Fire Giant buff too. They added all 3 tier 2 towers to their pockets, and even have a little bit of time left over if they want to make one sort of preliminary Phoenix push to see how well the defense from Horizon holds up.
About 70 seconds remaining. Good enough for 2 entire waves. Even worse, Turtle gonna split the difference by 1v1ing against Marcus, chipping away at half health with that Phoenix.
Orchi deletes Mr. Stefan. This is more than preliminary. This is a full-on commit now from Team Queso. Circle of Protection and the ultimate from Julio all been used, and that has started to force Horizon Union back. But remember all the damage Worst Turtle did in mid? He's single-handedly threatening that Phoenix. And now the left one's in trouble too. Abduct lands on Terrorum, and Chekio finds one more.
Looks like that left Phoenix will go down, as is the mid. The question is, how conservative does Queso want to be? Do they want to go for the right, or do they want to secure this first game victory?
Another Abduct into the Spirit Ball. That combo's been brutal. Fear no evil. Catches E-Chrome as well. Doesn't even let him back into the fountain. At the very least, Marcus stops them from getting the shutout. But that's a DSI. Team Queso take game 1 in dominant fashion.
And it wasn't that many kills either, Finch. It was only 9-1.
Yeah.
Impressive stuff out of Queso. They only had a 2-0 lead, but it was about a 4,000 gold lead off of those 2 kills between all the neutral camps, the red buff invades. I think that 4,000 gold lead was even before the second Gold Fury of the game.
It absolutely was. You're right. I think that was around the 11-minute mark or so, 12 minutes, where they built that up for themselves. And really what we saw was Horizon just never picking their spot, never taking a moment to fight. I don't think that it's that great that you'd lose the game and you only died 9 times.
Yeah.
Kind of get in there and see if maybe there's something you can do to slow down their momentum.
This next game, Marcus needs to go for flashy plays from the get-go. You can't allow your Jingwei to get bullied that early in the game. Get a blink at level 1 and make a play.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't do you any good to be 0-0 at 12 minutes in the game. Got to step something up. We'll see what adjustments they want to make, though, and we'll even have the desk break it down. Quick break. We'll be right back.
INAP, powering the control room for the Smite Minor League.
Well, welcome back. That was a little spicy. Team Queso absolutely living up to their namesake as far as being spicy. Not so much cheesy. That was some legitimate good smite. Horizon just could not really stand up. Mr. Stefan tried, but the squad couldn't really bring what it needed to. Taco, I mean, looking at that one, Team Queso just out of control.
It was the sustain that we mentioned. I mean, the Guan Yu, the ISIS or Circle of Protections, having the guaranteed confirmation as well for objectives made it very difficult for Horizon to ever actually try and challenge challenge them. And once you develop a lead as consistent as Queso did,
Yeah.
the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, you hear me kind of sigh here a little bit. Warchi just out of control, doing exactly what his fan base knows him well for, just controlling that mid lane. And Chekio really showing up. You know, I mentioned the term snowball. Ullr can absolutely do that. Look at that, 627 gold per minute. That's GPM is a stat that I look at rarely, but when it illustrates something, it really does.
And look, I get it. I totally understand. Jingwei, I still firmly believe to be a very viable hunter pick option. It was just rather unfortunate circumstances because once that Ullr gets the ball rolling, a god like Jingwei is just not going to be able to stand up.
We'll see if Jingwei stands up or sits down here as we enter game number 2. P's and B's pretty pleased as we enter. And the Horizon squad will figure out which way they want to go. Bans were pretty different. So we're in week number 2 here of our second phase. And in week number 1, we saw what went on with the minor league, console league, and the pro league. And then we got to see the console league again yesterday. And our bans have generally been relatively similar. Isis's and Chronos's and Zhongkui's. Here in game number 1, very different. We saw a lot of Ao Kuang and Seoul, the Athena ban. The Athena's interesting, but with respects to the individual teams here, but I was thrown for a loop with the bans that we saw in game number 1.
A wise switch up though for Queso here, sticking true to that AO first ban, but following it up almost immediately with that Isis makes sense considering the Horizon are in that first pick position, and I doubt that Warchi really wants to experience or get a little taste of his own medicine.
Nah, Warchi's like, I know what this god does, no thank you. With that said, Horizon are going to ban out the Khepri, the Athena, and the Zhongkui, and that leaves on her character that really stood up at Midseason Invitational. Dardes on the Pro Team Renegade certainly made this character look like it was brand new, not like it came out in 2012. This character has always been able to enfeeble the opposition.
This is how I know that these are very specific teams with the compositions they like to run. Thor, Scotty, Arthur even, still all available on the table, but on here is going to be our first pick selection, followed immediately by a response from Queso for Geb and the Amus and Cobb. I like this, though, between the Geb and AMC pairing because one introduces pressure, whereas the other one, not so much. I think we all know Geb has a little bit of early game woes going on.
Absolutely, but then in the late game, that shield winds up being a big deal, and you actually saw in game number 1, Geb was banned in the second phase. So obviously these teams are aware that he's somebody they want to play. Seoul and Achilles will be selected here. Achilles making his second showing here in game number 2. And then the Seoul, which was banned first and foremost.
It's really interesting to see Horizon kind of stick to their guns with this Achilles pick. It wasn't really able to establish any sort of the pressure that I think they were trying to in game 1. And so for them to run it back, I mean, it's got to be a little bit of player confidence coming into effect here. But seeing that tier switch up as well for Queso is rather, I don't want to call it discouraging, but it is very concerning because tier, great for harassing hunters, especially ones like On Her, maybe even forcing him to expend that Desert Fury a little preemptively.
Well, who's the solo laner for Team Queso?
I think we all know Julio's about to go nuts right now.
It's just the tier, man. I mean, this is exciting. We're going to get a chance to see Julio play the character that I mean, for the longest time, that was his Twitter picture.
Signature.
Just tier. So I'm excited for the show that we potentially will get to see. Something of note, though, you mentioned that the Achilles didn't bring what the team expected, and I would definitely agree there, but the Soul was banned away from this team last time. So maybe the Achilles and Soul have something to do when it comes time to the team fight, and that combination might work as opposed to Achilles by himself that we didn't see last time.
Now, here's something that doesn't shock me in the slightest. So this Nuwa pick, although a little bit interesting from Queso, they're holding it on to 4th pick instead of first picking it like they were in Phase 1. But a lot of prevalence still being given to this Nuwa selection. Have to think that it's because of the Fire Shards being able to influence the map from a global aspect. And not only that, but does give Warchi some decent survivability, if that is Warchi on the new wall like I'm expecting it to be.
Yeah, we've seen a number of mages switch over there to the long lane. The whole hunter, carry, mage thing has been amalgamated. And actually, very, very interesting. In our console league yesterday, we saw just for one game, not the whole set, but one of the teams actually just moved their mid laner to the long lane to play the mage. So, you know, there's a lot of malleability going on here. Team Queso going to select one of Rank's top bans, the Arachne. What's the difference between Arachne, real quick, ranked versus competitive?
It's really just about positioning and communication. And Arachne and Ranked, a lot more likely to get picks.
We'll see if the bug is going to be the one on top. Game number 2. Take us away.
Well, you heard it from Taco. Communication is what Horizon's going to need if they want to avoid this Arachne from Worst Turtle. And last game, Queso kind of got to do whatever they wanted undeterred, Anatoly. They got to make some adjustments here in this one.
She also said positioning, which is a key factor towards what everyone needs to do. Julio needs to be in position to get the good fearlesses off. We're going to need to see Terror be in position for cleanup. And it's funny because Terror playing the Achilles this game, he opted for the blink, but he's in the solo lane.
We'll see if we can make it work for him. They clearly value the Achilles on this team, as this time they put Marcus on the rack, but First Blood already? Worst Turtle started in the long lane, and they've taken down E-Chrome.
Oh no, not like this. Soul not having a good time at level 1. Soul is a good safeguard if she has to separate, but at level 1,
right,
you're obviously not getting that. You need the Stellar Burst for the lane clear. A very calculating decision from Worst Turtle, ignoring farm to gank this long lane or mage versus mage battle.
And I can't think of any time when you want to fight Arachne, like, right? Especially not 2-on-1. So this just works heavily in favor of Team Queso to get things started off. They've already grabbed the First Blood bounty for themselves. And this is sort of the active fighting, the active decision-making that Queso was doing in Game 1 that Horizon Union never seemed to have any kind of response to. Clearly, they're off to it here again.
Different style from their first game as well, between such a team-fighting-centric Isis, Khepri, and also the Guan Yu, as opposed to now, very aggressive. The Arachne, the Tyr, Warchi playing the Musin in middle, and they need to figure out a way to snowball early instead of controlling the mid-camps, and so far, they're off to a good start as Queso.
Well, let's see if we can go back and take a look at that First Blood, since it happened so quickly over there in the long lane with one of our replays. Worst Turtle has the blink, and yeah, that's just as easy as it comes, huh? Even with the beads, there's nothing they can do.
Worst Turtle too fast, riding that web carpet under E-Chrome's feet.
That's just a tough way for things to go for First Blood, man. And like you said, there's nothing you can do if you're E-Chrome. I mean, he beads, he did everything he could. This ends up falling. I mean, you can't even have wards that early. Yeah,
level 1 on a Soul, there's just nothing you can do. The mobility too fast coming through from this Arachne, even without the speed buff. So a good way to really start off the pacing of this game. Actually, she did have the speed buff. It just spawns at the 230. So immediately after speed buff, rotating to that dual lane. Not much you could do to outrun the bug. Even invading now.
Yep, and as you said, they consistently are doing something different, is how I would describe Team Queso. It always feels like they're catching you off guard. They're constantly able to come in and have something that you're not used to seeing, and the teams that can respond to it quickly beat them, and the teams that can't look a lot like what we saw from Horizon Union in Game 1.
When Worst Turtle got that First Blood on the Hunbats last game, he was able to really build off of it by controlling the red buff after the fact. This game, with the First Blood again onto Worst Turtle, but this time on Arachne, I'm not sure if he's going to look for the red buff invades after, or if he's going to look for more ganks on this dual lane to get the purple buffs rolling and get Shekio in a very comfortable position. Even level 5 now. Wow. The first one in the game is this new That's uncommon, actually.
Yeah, and Worst Turtle's not too far behind Marcus anyway. And I want to talk a bit about Marcus Tully, because he's on, again, an early game pick, even more so, I would say, than Achilles now in this Ratatosker. So there's truly no excuse for it this time. He's got to make something happen once he gets that ultimate here at level 5. Find some ganks, stop Worst Turtle from being able to freely rotate wherever it is he wants to on this map. I mean, where would you want to see Marcus even go look for an opportunity?
It has to be the long lane, right? Because ganking a Tyr is dangerous. He does have beats to counteract the Fearless, but Julio with the sustain, with the protections from the stand switch, you're better off looking at the long lane, maybe force out Shekio to use the fire shards and then look for a round 2. But the problem is Marcus doesn't have blink again, and this time he's on the Ratatosker. A safer god, I would argue, than opposed to the Achilles in the last game, and
sure,
he doesn't have to worry about this Hunbats compared to the last game either, but he's still worried about just multiple CCs, goes for the beads, and that limits his playmaking potential.
Worst Turtle, on the other hand, is happy to continue to play aggressive, even considering moving into the jungle of the Order side as Silence is pushed up. That is going to be the hammer down, but Team Queso not looking for more aggression. Worst Turtle more about the farm.
Already finishing off that gold blade is Worst Turtle, getting the right side mid camps. Has blink available, and he's daring Horizon to make a play in the mid lane as he is clearing those camps on the right side. Doing a good job farming, I would say. But Marcus, I think, a little bit not too far behind in the stacks of the Assassin's Blessing.
Yeah, they are pretty close. I think Marcus might be slightly ahead experience-wise at the very least, because all he's done is farm so far this game in the jungle, which is I mean, that's not a problem, man. Power farming's good too. We just got to see him cash it in at some point, as he's also got the Acorn fully completed, something he's able to do quite easily with the passive. All those things point to pretty good level 5 and 6 ganks.
All through the Cosmos is available whenever he wants to use it, but a lot of camps that he has to clear at the 5-minute mark before that becomes an opportunity. Totem of Ku still favoring out Queso in this matchup. Julio on his signature tier. Normally he builds the Blink and Mage's Blessing. This time he's actually still conservative in the form of a Warrior's Blessing.
Well, it's a solo lane gank and a dual lane gank happening at the same time. Marcus can't land the initial knock-up, and Worst Turtle looks like can't lock down E-Chrome either. Everyone's still holding onto their beads. It looks like
no way.
It's actually Julio that blinks in aggressively, forces the beads out from Marcus. Blink Cataclysm from Draco only catches Terrorim, so that should be it.
If Marcus didn't have his dash, he was definitely dead to rights there. Silence could be in a little bit of trouble. Forced to use that ultimate defensively. Might get chased down, but that jump covering a lot of distance.
Julio avoids the Fatal Strike execute and gets another shield. Now Marcus is in some trouble, gets the dash off, and then allows him to reposition. So he should be able to back here.
No way,
Julio
Lawbringers
is coming into the jungle with the Lawbringer, and Marcus gets flattened like a pancake.
And even Fire Shards just for good measure on top of this. In the mid lane, though, Mr. Stefan needs to make a play. Warshi has no mana.
He's in some trouble, but has Worst Turtle coming in. Impale was to try and clone out the kill, but it was not enough damage. Mr. Stefan makes it back to tower, but totally, I mean, 2 ganks on sides of the map. Both don't initially work, but it's Queso who eventually comes away with the kill.
It's impressive to see how long Julio survived. And
Yep.
2 important jukes. Number 1 was avoiding Marcus's ultimate by using that defensive power cleave in a hot 180, preventing the knockup and all the follow-up, so he didn't take the initial brunt of that damage.
Right.
And then the confidence to go in a 1v2 under the tower. He's
That's
like, I'm going to
crazy.
force your beads real quick. Unfortunate for Draco Marino when he tried to follow up that the dash was still available for Marcus. But then the second important juke, the Fatal Strike, avoiding that out of terror, allowing him to come back in with a Lawbringer onto Marcus. There was a ward actually from Queso that saw exactly where Marcus was backing, and that's why Julio was able to make that play.
And if you're looking at the direct jungle comparison, you might be thinking, well, Marcus is still a bit ahead of Worst Turtle, so maybe it doesn't hurt them too much. But look at the side lanes. Chekio is ahead of E-Chrome, and Julio is a bit ahead of Terram. He only just ticked over to level 8. What Worst Turtle has done is stay close to Marcus and accelerate his 2 side lanes.
And the side laner of the long lane is the important one to take note of. Nuwa that gets that level 13, level 17, and 20 faster, accelerating the damage of the Fire Shards is not pleasant to deal with in that mid to late game, especially without too much sustaining options coming through from Horizon.
Yeah, it's just no surprise the team with all these blinks is making more plays here in the early game. It's just such a good, versatile relic, and the cooldown's relatively low when you compare it to what some of these other cooldowns are, like on ultimates and beads and such. It just allows you to do so much. I mean, I'm not putting it all at Marcus not having blink or anything like that. I'm just saying that Queso has built to make more plays and has also made more plays.
And you even asked me the question of like, where should we be seeing Marcus? Hold that thought though, because we're seeing him in mid.
Yeah, maybe that's the call. The Geb is here to try and keep alive. Cataclysm is enough for the turnaround kill. Draco Marino gets Warchi out of there. That's some big time plays from the Geb.
Mr. Stefan unfortunately couldn't land the impale. Too far out of reach was Warchi as he escaped under his tier 1 tower. A nice idea from Marcus going on to Warchi that didn't have beats up, still unavailable for another 13 seconds.
It's a nice hammer from Silenced into the underhand tactics to get back towards the tier 1 tower. I do want to also point out Draco Marino saves Warchi there without a defensive relic. It's Blink as Mr. Stefan catches the hands from Julio in the middle lane. Blink into Fearless, a tale as old as time. And Silence, this is no longer for you. I think you give up the tier 1 tower, my man. This is all Queso. He might even lose his life. Is able to jump away. On the backside comes Terrorim and does have the Fatal Strike, but can't afford to line it up.
Rotation for 9 minutes out of the soul laner. Never a cool thing to deal with from your mid laner's life. Paying the ultimate price is Mr. Stefan. Didn't even beat during that Fearless. I'm not sure if it was up or not, but either way, tier 1 tower still stands a little bit longer, but I think that Queso want to keep the pressure in mid. Julio is still rotating.
This is an interesting call. A lot of rotation coming in from Queso, so Horizon will not get this one for free, but will they recognize it in time? Now they've dropped the Fury, so they don't get the objective, and they're in a tough spot for this fight as well. Mr. Stefan tries to follow up with the Desert Fury, but it's just not enough. Worst Turtle in the 2v1 is hunting him down as Chekio finds Marcus.
Ooh, a
That's
great
nice.
execute out of Terra. At least an answer. Finally, Horizon gets on the board with a great rotation from Terror, able to secure the purple buff. Very ambitious to do that Gold Fury, but a better response out of Queso. They recognized immediately what the plans from Horizon were. There's so much sentry vision control under the left mids, right behind the Gold Fury as well, that they read Horizon like a book. Both Julio and Worst Turtle were rotating from the solo side jungle to ensure the safety of that Gold Fury would not go to the order side.
Like you said, more recognition there from Queso. I mean, even when Horizon, I think that's the first offensive play they've made all set, was to go for that Gold Fury just now, and Team Queso read it. They were 100% there. Worst Turtle gets a bit over-ambitious in the 2v1, and Taro makes a great play to punish him for it. But aside from that, Queso's played lights out.
Queso's like a bank vault that everybody wants to, like all the bank robbers are looking at, and they're like, man, we really need whatever the hell is in there. And there's security on the outside, there's security on the inside, they got cameras everywhere with the wards, and they're just not able to complete the mission, unfortunately.
Yeah, I haven't quite been able to figure out how to crack that safe from Team Queso so far, as Chekio was gifted an early lead in this long lane and has not parted ways with it yet. E-Chrome's still down about 2 levels, and things might get worse. Worst Turtle and Draco Marino are nearby, but they don't actually want the gank. They'll fall back here instead.
Despite getting first blooded, I think that E-Chrome has been able to keep up the pacing relatively fine with just that one death. He could be behind even worse. We haven't really seen Worst Turtle make that secondary or third rotation in the long lane, thankfully for E-Chrome, because he would have been struggling even further. But this time around, it's Queso that wants to go for the objective.
They've already got it quite low. Rats in the air to try and contest, but Queso confirm it even against Supernova. Marcus Beats forced out by Cataclysm, and Worst Turtle catches up with an ultimate of his own. That means Horizon Union now on the retreat, tail between their legs, as Queso take what they want yet again.
But Draco Marino a little bit low in the health department with Terra's rotation. Was thinking about looking for a cleanup play, but this time around, it's a similar story where there's not too many kills on the board, Finch, but still a huge commanding lead for Queso at this point in the game.
And I think E-Chrome had the right idea. He was there, he tried to drop the Supernova to contest, but Queso played a little bit too clean. Lawbringer into the tower. Mr. Stefan ends up falling again. Worst Turtle blinks over the wall to try and take down E-Chrome yet again, and another kill across the map. Team Queso have pressure wherever they want.
I think they can even grab the left tier 1 tower after this if they really want to, Finch, but instead gonna back to purchase some items. Going for Atalanta's bow is Worst Turtle, trying to get more attack speed and movement speed to follow suit from his build.
It's so difficult to keep up with Queso. I mean, remember those 2 ganks we saw happening simultaneously with Worst Turtle in duo and Marcus in right? It wasn't between the junglers, I don't think, that's decided that. That was just big plays from Julio individually to survive through the gank that turned it around. So even when I think you're making the right call, Queso can even fall back on just individual talent. It's hard to stop him.
This is his signature staple pick,
Yes,
though.
that's true.
He's so comfortable with the tier, it's almost obnoxious. It might come to a point where maybe not in week 3 or 4 or 5, but maybe when teams are getting closer to qualifying towards MSI, that they might ban away the tier from Julio to see, because the way he's been able to survive is obnoxious.
Yeah,
He was level, what, 10 or something like that. He only had boots. He didn't even have like the Runeforged hammer during that 1v2 scuffle.
it wasn't a lot at his disposal, and he is able to make that all work for him. So far, Julio's had a pretty good game, 3-0-1. All these teams doing what they can to try and make it towards the end of the year here, as E-Chrome is actually the one with a little bit of pressure here in the long run.
And this time, Julio going for pre-win early versus last game of Terra going for the pre-win on a Vamana is way different, because the defensive stance out of tier alone gives you, I think, 50 protections each on that max rank.
Well, this is a big rotation for Horizon. Worst Turtle could be forced up into that Nightcrawler ultimate. if he gets caught out, but he's managed to position himself back behind Mr. Stefan and Marcus. Cataclysm comes through to lock Marcus down for a moment, and Worst Turtle from the ultimate cleans up the kill. It's 5 up against 4.
The discipline yet again. Worst Turtle could have went for Mr. Stefan and landed on him under that tier 2 tower, but instead he goes for the guaranteed play onto Marcus. In hindsight, with Chekio's ultimate, that could have been a second kill, but playing it safe.
Tarim is way over in right. Marcus, or rather Mr. Stefan, was forced to back. That means Queso has huge numbers to force down the tier 1 and left. And Julio has wrapped around behind the tier 2, forces out Supernova, and the whole squad's grouped up.
Without purification beads, Ecrome's hand was forced. He had to gain CC immunity from the Supernova, prevent that Fearless outside of the tier 2 tower. At least they can, because if he dies, if Ecrome dies in that encounter, the tier 2 tower will soon follow with only Silence there to defend.
Tier 1 tower in mid and long lane has been taken. Tier 1 in the short lane's only at half HP. 6,600 gold, nearly 6,000 experience in Queso's favor. Right along that same pace as they had in game number 1. Horizon got on the board sooner in this one, though, with that nice kill that Tarim found. But for the most part, this game has been entirely Team Queso.
Hey, Julio is not stopping now, still taking these 1v2s. Draco Marino now making it a 2v3. Maybe a 3-on-0 on the right side of the map. I don't see how a Horizon unit can really stop this tier 1 tower going down. It's at 50% health. And it seems that the last tier 1 tower at a Horizon about to get plucked away.
And it's another early game pick from Marcus that isn't getting it done for them in the early game. And at a certain point, if he's just not going to be, like, he made 1, maybe 2 gank attempts with it. If he's not looking for that many, just get him on a later game pick.
Chekio forced to use the Fire Shards to get away from this 1v2. The rotations from the Soul Lane might play cleanup. Horizon a little overextended in Queso's jungle on the left side. They're about to get chased down.
And Silence is going to have the D-transformation soon. That'll be a golden opportunity for this Arachne to move in for some close range autos. Even Draco Marino is here as well. I don't see a world where this Fafnir makes it out. Draco's the one that gets the kill with the knock-up. Now Marcus must disengage. He is going to try and grab the purple and retreat, which works. A brave call. But Case are the ones in position for this next Fury.
Calculated call from Marcus.
Sure.
And honestly, at this point of the game last, he was 0-0-0. So despite having a worse scoreline, at least he's trying to make plays on the Ratatoskr. He needs to be in a position to make those plays. Unfortunately, the execution wasn't quite there to follow up.
That's some new awe damage for you as Echrome about to catch the hands from Julio. That is one more kill garnered on the side of Team Queso, along with the Fury for themselves. And now they can even threaten the tier 2. Tarim's over the wall, but how much can he do? He blinks onto Warchi. That does force the Aegis for a nice play. Oof. But even with that Thorns pinned against the wall, it's an easy kill.
There's too much damage there for this level 15 Achilles to handle. 1,500 gold in the pocket from Queso after the gold, their second Fury of the game, even going for a very early Phoenix. Too much is happening on the map for Horizon to handle all at once.
I think so too. They're definitely losing the tier 2 in mid. They might even lose this Phoenix in left. Marcus goes up into the air. He'll be looking for a knock-up on Warchi, but can't grab it there. His own life's the one that's in danger. Warchi cleans up the kill. Phoenix burns to the ground. Team Queso now considering even looking for an end. They pull up. Instead, they'll come towards this mid-Phoenix. All of a sudden, this is out of reach for Horizon.
It definitely is. I don't necessarily expect them to commit to the middle Phoenix. Having to deal with Oni waves is Horizon, giving plenty timing of a window for Queso to complete the Fire Giant now. Such a lead. Bigger of a lead at this point compared to the last. If anything, I thought that Horizon would be able to bounce back mentally. Mr. Stefan playing the on-her Marcus, playing the Ratatoskr. There's a lot of playmaking opportunities between those two mid-jungle synergies, but I just haven't seen it out of Horizon since Echrome fell at the very beginning of the game. I think that might have demoralized Horizon throughout.
There's definitely a chance. I mean, it's such a tough loss to take as Worst Turtle blinks in by himself. At the very least, they get the Pyromancer and defend that, but Worst Turtle's Warpath has not been slowed. Queso back with everyone having at least 2,200 thousand gold to back with. I think Chekio had closer to 3,000. So as many plays they were able to make before, they're going to make even more now.
Looking at the Titan that's exposed, but the having to deal with the Fire Giant at the same time. Terror going to get plucked away very quickly. Still, no one defending the Titan. It's just getting chipped away, Finch.
You're right, it is getting brought down even lower, so Queso can stay on the gas. They don't have Terrum here to help defend. They forced back all of Horizon back to their own side of the map. They should be able to grab this tier 2 even without the FG. They haven't even gotten it yet this game, and look at how much they've taken.
I don't think they even necessarily need it after the performance that they've been able to do. Taking out Terror at the blink of an eye. Still feeling like they're going to defend is Horizon, pushing beyond where their tier 2 tower used to stand. Gonna get a little bit of a trap from Worst Turtle, forcing Silence to jump away, forcing Mr. Steppen to just kind of look from afar.
Well, here's the first Fire Giant of the game going down for Team Queso. A foregone conclusion at this point. 14-1, 20 minutes in, and a 15,000 gold lead to go along with that. Totally,
That's pretty good.
yeah, thanks. I didn't
was
even
that
have
what
to
you can ask
yeah,
me? Yeah.
I didn't even have to ask. You're right. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
And they've itemized so well around it, too. Toxic Blade, Atlanta's Bow from Worst Turtle to add some anti-heal to accelerate his farm. The Fail Knot is there for Warchi. That's just a ton of good stats that Moose and Cobb wants, plus the passive Witchblade from Julio to shut down Stefan and Echrome. I love the way that Queso's played this entire set.
And when you mentioned how there was 3 blinks coming through from Queso, as no blink necessary for Worst Turtle, forcing out the Aegis from Echrome. Here comes Draco to bail out his jungler, even a shell for good measure. Warchi to follow up. Beautiful knockup from Draco. Getting one, needs a second.
And now Marcus is dead to rights too. No way he makes it out of here. That's the first fight that I think Echrome's won all game. If that was a true 1v1, I think he could have won that one, but it's just not going to be happening here this game. Queso's the one with all the cards that can make all the moves. They rotate in, find 2 more kills, and now in a 3v5, Horizon try and find a way to stop the team up. 17,000 gold.
Yeah, there are no 1v1s in Smite when there's a nuance, especially into this game. After getting the left side Phoenix, Queso thinking about demolishing this middle one. Drake a little off the mark there.
Yeah, didn't even get to finish talking about the thought to take the Phoenix before it melted. Team Queso has way too much pressure at this point. In fact, they're going to move right into the Titan room, Toli, and I think this set might already be over. Horizon desperately trying to cling on, but it won't be enough. Queso take the set 2-0.
16-2, Queso playing very clean. They were only giving up 1 death until the very end of that Titan siege. Just an airtight performance from start to finish.
It really was, man. I mean, sometimes we come in and 2-0s are deceiving. It's too long, 40-plus minute games or something like that. That just wasn't the case here, man. This is a straight-up win for Team Queso. And Horizon really, now I think they know they've got 2 games to go back and look at where they can improve and trying to make some adjustments.
And honestly, if I'm looking at this set, I got to think of like, okay, how can I engage Marcus a little bit more on one of these side lanes? We saw Worst Turtle take a calculated risk in game number 2 when they have the 1-game lead going from his own speed directly to gank in the dual lane. We need to see that out of Marcus if he wants his team to get that early game lead.
You're exactly right, Toli. That's only set 1, though. We still got plenty more minor league that's going to be coming y'all's way. Give us a quick break, and we'll be right back.